released on orders from federal officials. The Cleveland Sheriff Department says they stopped Juan Ramirez back on July 7th, but when they called immigration officials, word came back to let him go. What happened next is adding new fire to the debate over illegal immigration in this country. Trace Gallagher has the story. Trace?
Megyn, Juan Emmanuel Razzo's alleged crime spree began last week when his 14-year-old niece called police claiming that Razzo tried to rape her at a Cleveland area park. When police and park rangers began searching for him, they got a call about a shooting. A 40-year-old woman riding bikes with her 2 kids shot and wounded in the arm, allegedly by Juan Razzo. Police then used reverse 911 to warn residents to stay inside their homes. And that's when detectives were flagged down by a man claiming he just found his wife dead. 60-year-old Peggy Kostelnick had been shot multiple times inside her home. Not long after that, a father called 911 to report that a man, later identified as Juan Razzo, was in his backyard pointing a rifle at his son. When deputies showed up, Razzo fired on them. They returned fire, but Razzo hid behind a rock, later giving up. 2 weeks before the murder, deputies spotted a suspicious car and approached the driver. Juan Razzo admitted not having a driver's license and not being a U.S. citizen. Deputies then contacted the Border Patrol, who advised them not to detain Razzo, apparently because he wasn't a violent felon. Though Customs and Border Protection won't comment until they, quote, look into the facts of the case to find out exactly what happened. During his bail hearing, Razzo told the judge he didn't have a driver's license, a green card, or birth certificate. His fingerprint also was not in the database. Listen to the baffled judge.
As somebody that we don't even know who he is, why he's in this country, why he's here illegally, and why he allegedly committed a murder.
Razzo has a preliminary hearing next week. He could be looking at life in prison. Megyn.
Trace, thank you. Joining me now, Coulter, author of Adios, America, and Alan Colmes, host of The Alan Colmes Show. So, I mean, I realize one case doesn't speak for all the illegal immigrants in this country, but here we go again. You could feel the judge's outrage there, and he's sick and tired of these cases, as are the American people, Ann.
Yes, and we're finally hearing about more of them. I mean, this has been going on all the time. The last few days, I've been tweeting out stories where, you have to get to the bottom of the story of another murder, another child rape. Wouldn't it be great if we had a wall on the border? And by the way, he didn't apparently have enough of a record. He'd be on his way to a path to legalization if the House had taken up Rubio's bill.
This is the thing that, nonviolent apparently passed. That he was, according to Trace's report, not detained because there was no history. And this is the Obama department's, their priorities that they've set, that they only go after the so-called violent illegal immigrants. And yet, how do you determine who's about to be a violent criminal?
You can't say who's about to be a violent criminal, but there is more violent behavior among those who are not here undocumented than there are among undocumented immigrants.
That's not true. You have no idea.
It's absolutely true.
Ridiculous.
All the studies have been done show there is much more violence among white, black, Hispanic, legal residents of the United States than there are among those who are here illegally.
They don't compare it to Americans. They compare it to convicted Americans.
No, those are the stats. Cato Institute's done it.
No,
all
they
kinds
didn't.
of
They
studies have
cited
been
the
done.
same study.
Well, then we'll cite study versus study.
But Alan, let me ask you this. High-profile case after high-profile case, although the media chooses not to highlight this. I mean, this one hasn't been everywhere. Cecil the Lion, who we'll get to, too, later. We're also going to cover that, which is disturbing. That gets a lot of coverage. This one, not so much. But to the extent it does it undermine the argument we are hearing from people who support sanctuary cities, from people who want to allow a path to citizenship?
They're emotionally devastating stories, and they're devastating to the families and to anybody who hears about it. They're horrific tragedies. But policy should not be made based on stories that are often used to make a political point, which is what's being done here by those who are running for president, who want to act as anti-immigrant as they possibly can for political purposes. Policy should not be made based on these individual yet horrific, tragic events.
Okay, well, for one thing, that is all we do all the time. I mean, we had to listen for a year about a rape that never happened by the Duke lacrosse team. We had months on still talking the UVA gang rape that never happened. We have the Ferguson hands up, don't shoot that never happened. Now we have a real war on women. because all these peasant cultures are being dumped on the country to give the Democrats more votes, and
What do you mean by peasant
businesses
cultures?
cheap
Peasant
labor.
cultures?
Yes, peasant cultures, the kind
are
of
you calling a
cultures where
peasant
child
culture?
rape is common, and that is what we're getting, and that's
want to
what
put
we're
down an
seeing.
entire
And
culture?
to say, oh, we shouldn't develop policy on this. This is a government policy, Alan. Who comes into the country, whether or not we have a fence? The American people have been demanding a fence for 30 years. Congress has passed 3 fence bills already, but somehow the
waste of
fence
money.
doesn't get built, and Republican after Republican keeps thinking, I'm going to be the one who's going to get
And
amnesty.
policy on prosecution priorities, which has been a big deal under the Obama administration. We're only going to go after the violent felons, only the really violent felons.
Right.
Well, this guy wasn't a violent felon until he was.
You can't know in advance every
That's
crime
why
that's going to be
That's
committed.
that's
You
answer.
can't
That's
know
why we
that.
only want to let in people who won't become
Because
felons.
we're not letting in people, for the most part, who are committing these kinds
We're
of
not
crimes.
letting them in. They're coming in, and this is nonsense. They are
We've had
far
more deportations
crime
under
prone.
both Bush
and to
and-
We
cite
need an
a
after the
study.
segment. You know, we need an
Cite
after
a
the segment.
study. Why don't you just count the ones in
What-
prison?
Can anybody think of
But
a
they
good
won't do
acronym
that.
for that? What could we call the after the segment? Oh wait, no.
No, we
Great to
can't
see you
do
both.
Thank you.